Chad,
Hey.
thank you for coming today. This is kind of a different interview for the Colorado Food Magazine, but it all ties together what we're trying to achieve here at the Colorado Food Magazine. We're talking about food, we're talking about service, we're talking about healing, breaking bread together, and your journey. You've had a very unique one. The other things that we're trying to achieve, not only at the Colorado Food Magazine, but also at the Hispanic Restaurant Association, the Hispanic Chefs Association, and just everything we do is the pursuit of excellence. And, we became friends via our mutual friend, Zach Wallace.
Yep.
And both of you guys are just cool guys. So, we've gotten to know each other over the past, couple months and, have lunch and stuff like that. But I want to talk about, because you, in your background, a Tier 1 guy at JSOC, what does that stand for?
The Joint Special Operations Command.
So you were an Army guy. I
Yeah.
won't hold it against you. I
Yeah.
was Navy
No.
and Marines.
Hey,
and
I was
SAC.
in a joint unit. Much
know.
love for everyone.
I know.
Yeah.
We're just teasing each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
And but I want to talk about world-class excellence and the pursuit of excellence and how you got there and the decisions. And then I also want to talk about, you talked about food and healing and what you want to do with your Quest Outfitters.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and how that really ties together with food, because we all break bread together, no matter what culture. So let's start with, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Louisiana, South Louisiana mostly. Lived there until I joined the Army in 97.
Oh, did
So,
you? So,
yeah.
and so you joined the Army, and where did you started in what boot camp, kind of where?
Yeah, went to basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
And then you you eventually became, you went through the special operations world. What made you seek that world?
When I joined the Army, I didn't know anything about special operations really. So just decided to be a medic because I figured that was something I could do, I could use if I decided to get out and didn't like it. So joined as a combat medic, and as soon as I started to learn about what we were there to do and really started to get mission focused with the military, I wanted to be surrounded by folks that wanted to be there and were trying to give their best. And I figured if I was going to go to war, I wanted to go with
The best
to my left and right. So that sort of, sparked that fire that drove the passion and motivation behind that. And so as soon as I met the administrative requirements, I applied to go to SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. So I think I was in 19 months in the Army when I went.
Oh, nice. So what made you join the Army? Was it like you wanted to just experience something different, patriotism, all of the above?
Sure. I think I grew up playing Army all the time. It was like
Something you wanted to do?
yeah, I knew I was going to do something like that. The opportunity, it was stability, and honestly, I was like, I get to wear camo every day. I love to hunt and be in the woods. So I was like, sure, I can do that.
And I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
So you talked about, you said you wanted to be the best with the person to the left and right of you. And then you went through SASF, and then you eventually reached, from the military perspective, the highest levels of craftsmanship and skill set.
Yeah.
And what goes through your mind, and what lessons can you impart to a chef, a young guy, somebody of any endeavor in the pursuit of excellence? Would you say helps? But you've at that level. You're a Tier 1 guy.
Right.
That's the highest levels of military professionalism, craftsmanship, skill sets, leadership, all those factors that we're trying to do. Tell me about the decision making, the person to the left and right of you. What makes a team that good?
So they talk about how many times you volunteer. So each time you volunteer, that's a filtering process of everyone that is on your team and that surrounds you. So I think I volunteered 4 times to go through different selection process is. So I think the most important thing is to visualize what it is that you're after and really define your goal. Find out what it is about that goal that is driving you, because the motivation behind that pursuit of excellence, it's going to empty out on you if you don't have a solid meaning behind that and purpose. It comes back to being purpose driven. And why are you doing what you're doing? Because the whole macho thing, is gonna not last. That is gonna forsake you. So, really visualizing that goal and then backwards planning from that. What is it gonna take for me to achieve excellence in this? So, backwards planning and.
So visualize the goal long term, what you want to do in your lifetime goal. And you, in our offline talking over the phone, and I've used it since, and I told you that yesterday when we were talking on the phone. You talked about micro decisions.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Let's define, because I'm trying to define leadership,
right?
Decision making for the chefs and pursuit of their goals.
Yeah.
And then the vision, which you said, come up with that. So what's your thought process there?
So micro decisions, are really the most important ones that we make on a daily basis. We think it's just going to be this big decision that we're faced with that really, changes our destiny. And in my opinion, it's more about these small decisions that you make on a daily basis that add up to that. You're going to be the sum of those decisions. And what makes it easier for those micro decisions is establishing that why, that purpose behind what you're doing, because that will allow you to make those decisions on the go because you have a purpose. And if that's not in line with my purpose, then it's a no.
I love that, but that's what we say at the Hispanic Restaurant Association and the Chefs Association, because we talk about our mission and our vision. And then everybody we partnership, including who we bring on the podcast, I'm like, does it align with our mission?
Right.
The pursuit of excellence, advocate on behalf of the Hispanic Restaurateur to educate and elevate people. And part of you, who I really wanted to have you on board, you've achieved the highest levels of excellence in certain endeavors, and that's so I want to talk to somebody that's achieved it, not just talk about it, go read a book or something like that, but what you went through, your journey, like that. So you talked about those micro decisions. Did you have any books or people that inspired you? But you talked about the macho part, kind of falling off the side.
For sure. I was blessed with so many, really, as far as mentors, books. There's a lot there. Also, I'd say one of my favorite books that I read when I was probably 20 years old, and making that decision on what I wanted to do, was Tender Warrior by Stu Weber, I think was the author. And it just talks about how to be a genuine man. And I think we've distorted what the definition of that is nowadays. And, it leaves a lot of young men kind of wondering, what to do with that and how to get that validation. But that was a great book. He was a prior Special Forces officer, and it talks a lot about that. And in the name of the book is kind of inherent in what he's talking about, how to be that tender warrior, still, that man's man, but you still have respect and you're humble and you're empathetic with folks. So.
Does that still impact you today?
Absolutely. It's been kind of a lifelong, pearl of wisdom or nugget that I've held with me.
It sounds like that's kind of like your life philosophy.
For sure.
So can you help define a life philosophy, or did what you just talked about, the Tender Warrior, is that?
Yeah. It does. It kind of sums up, the mentors that I had the most respect for coming up and that poured into me. I saw them as tender warriors. I mean, there were men that were still compassionate and open the door for their wives and such. And but at the same time, when they were at work, I saw a different side of them. And so it helped me to delineate things in my life. And, there's a certain amount of compartmentalizing that has to happen. And you've got to be careful that, that can be a rabbit hole that leads to some negative things in your life.
Right.
But you still have to do that. One of the mentors that I had, he talked about, you got to be Superman. And really, you're not wearing the cape until you get home. He talked about, you could give everything you had that day at work for your team, for the mission, whatever. But when you get home, you can't just turn it off and check out. That's really when the challenge begins.
And life happens.
Yeah, life happens. Go home and still give your family the best of you as well. Don't let them get, what's left over or the worst.
Did you develop like a feedback mechanism within yourself to help alleviate that? But it's like completely understand the compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Taking off the when you go home, changing whatever. Did you have any particular methodologies or disciplines, daily disciplines that you did to make that shift?
A lot of that wisdom comes in retrospect. I don't think that I nailed it quite as much as I understand it now.
We're all older.
At the time, for sure. A lot of those lessons were hard learned. But yeah, I think, that drive home is a time to reset and, prepare yourself for what you're going to,
well, we
get
can
into.
impart these lessons to the younger guys now.
For sure.
You went through and like, oh, okay, because we all learn from experience.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately the most painful thing for
Right.
a lot of us. We just
Right.
we have to
Yeah.
I didn't do that one right.
Yeah.
So talking about these guys, these leaders that inspired you. The book,
Yeah.
I love that, The Tender Warrior. I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but I'll check it out. What do you consider a good leader? And apply that to home, apply that to work, and apply that to yourself.
So, on the topic of books, there's another one called Leaders Eat Last.
I know that one. I'm very familiar with that one.
Love it. That is a leader right there to kind of sum it up in a phrase. It is putting your team before yourself. And if everyone's doing that, there's a synergistic effect that happens where you're exponentially more productive and powerful than you could have been. A leader is one who is forecasting, who is predicting outcomes and challenges.
Looking around corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing that foresight back to your team, and that becomes wisdom that you're sharing with your team. It's making sure that they're taking care of themselves. It's looking out for them, like in that way also. It's not asking anyone to do something that you haven't done, or not willing to do. I think that a good leader will demonstrate, display, give an example of here's the right way to do it. Now, go and make it your own, and still, allow for that liberal. I think when a leader is leading out of confidence, it's such a different thing than when a leader is leading out of fear. There's a lot of mistakes, and as a leader, there's going to be times where you're scared to death and you feel like you're in too deep. But you have to, maintain that example for them, and encourage them, to get past these obstacles. Use more encouragement than correction, I would say. The good, bad, good sandwich is always a good tactic, Bring out the positives in folks, enhance their strengths, and that will inherently, fix weaknesses. Knowing yourself, I think, is another big part of leadership. Until you really know yourself and, admit and know your weaknesses, then it's really hard for you to lead other folks through their stuff. So really focusing on yourself. I mean, when you get home, it's, you still got to give the best of yourself. And you're doing the same thing there for your family. I think it's in Tender Warrior. It gives an example of life being like this jungle, and you're leading your family through it. And you've got to be the one that climbs the tree and looks out over all of that, vegetation.
And predicts the outcomes.
Yeah.
Defines the path.
Yeah, defines a path. Exactly.
That's cool. Wow. So that's pretty cool. So you have these leaders that inspire. Do you have anybody in particular that you can name? As I know that you want to thank.
For sure. First, I would have to thank my father, just for what he gave me growing up. I mean, work ethic, integrity. He was a really good man, and he poured a lot into me. And at the time, I resented a lot of it. But looking back on it after a while, I was like, wow, this is
like
so
he
much
was smart
easier.
after all.
Yeah, for sure. And then in the military, Johnny Dennis, I would love to give that man a hug today. I mean, he trained me to go to selection, and he would meet me at midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning. It didn't matter. Like, he would do whatever it took, and we would go on a long road march. And the whole time I'm asking him questions, and he's, telling me.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was phenomenal to have someone commit like he did. Yeah, I was really blessed along the way.
And we've talked about leadership, but we're also trying to impart about teamwork.
Yeah.
Kitchen, life, family, all those, because there's so many facets to each of us.
Yeah.
And then getting food and teaching, using that. What does a good teammate consist of? Right.
That comes back to if you can't be a good follower, if you can't follow, you can't lead. So if you can't be a strong teammate, then you're not going to make a good leader for that team eventually. And so I think putting the team before self, it's those things that you're talking about, that's everyday life. You have to be empathetic to those things as well with your teammates, and have a sense of what's going on in their life, and give some grace for that too.
We all require that.
Yeah, all. So, yeah, I think, and staying committed. Again, those
the purpose, the mission,
those micro decisions being on that path. And
what, as you left the service, you had all those. As I mentioned earlier, you achieved the highest levels of combat excellence and teamwork and leadership at a tier 1 level. And some people, if you're not familiar with it, just look up the term and you'll understand. What habits did you bring when you left the service and that help you today?
Time management is a huge one. It's amazing how much you can expand your time when you really get focused about it and stick to it. It's really hard to stick to it. You can come up with the greatest plan on paper, and then it doesn't play out real well. But it has to start on paper somewhere. So you have to have a target, with that week. Be planning 2 weeks ahead, and really managing your time well. And you'll be surprised how those little 15-minute pockets that you have in there that you devote to something, it adds up.
One of the things that I've done or do regularly is, if it takes me 2 to 5 minutes, if it's something like an email or a call or something that has to be done, I just pull over in a spot next road and get it done. So that way those 2 to 5 minute things don't pile up, and I have an hour or two at the end of the day.
For sure.
And there's less psychological pressure.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get that conveyed to everyone on our team, which we're really good. Our team is really good. We talk about teamwork and micro decisions, and now we're trying to get that to the chefs, the Hispanic chefs, because I want to develop a world-class leadership program for these people to help.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you've done it. So you're firsthand living proof of that. So those little micro decisions help every day get it done.
Yeah.
Planning starts with a piece of paper. Any other advice in that?
It does. Writing it down is extremely important. Mapping it out. It's amazing how once you start writing it down, you identify, well, that plan wasn't going to work, and it saves you a lot of headaches and heartache down the road.
Yeah, the iterative decision making. You just kind of, or the micro decisions, as you said. You're like, okay. I take small steps forward. That's the wrong path. Let's back up. You didn't waste a day. You only wasted a few minutes. Yeah. And that's what I try and convey is I just get it done as far as it helps me tremendously manage my day.
And that turns into a map, then that turns into a document that you can share with your team. Hey, when I was in your position, when I was washing dishes, this was, economy of motion. This was how I did things the quickest. And writing that out, and it gives that person a foundation to work from. It's like basic training. You can't be a good soft operator if you weren't really good at the basic things.
So the fundamentals.
The fundamentals, absolutely. That foundation is what you can build upon. I would say, as a leader there, have that checklist, that document, that foundation that they can grow from, and
so teach the most junior guy, the dishwasher, the cook, the processes for the path and how to get there. Yeah. We talk about that a lot here at the Hispanic Restaurant Association, processes, and talking about, okay, if you want to be promoted, just like the military, we got, the next level up, E4, E5, E6, E7.
Right.
These are the qualification processes of mastering the fundamentals at each level of service.
Yeah.
And going from there.
And customer service, also is in everything that you're doing, you're teaching customer service also. And that's customer service is, relations within the team. It's towards the customer out, sitting, eating the food. So just how to treat people well also, I think, is something that is really important with building a good team. I would have to imagine that the turnover rate on these teams is a bit higher than what I've experienced on some of these teams that I've been with, and I think that's why it's even more important that you have that stuff documented and you're able to start that person
and build a good culture, a leadership for people who want to stay. A loyalty, because that's one thing that a lot of restaurants have found. They need to change their culture. It's not the command and control.
Change the culture, change the game. That's another great book.
I didn't even. Is it?
Fabulous. I might mess up the author right now, so I'm not sure. But change the culture, change the game. Great book, and it talks about that, and that is how you the culture is what's going to make that person want to stay and go the extra mile. How you treat them. I think spending some time back down in the trenches with your team. Don't ever get, so far away from that, that.
Don't become a desk jockey.
Don't leave the low guy on the totem pole down there by himself.
We always talk about the dishwasher as one of the more important. If you can't treat him well, you can't take care of him, then, as a leader, I think you're useless.
Yeah, it sets a tone for the whole thing.
Exactly. So talk about food. This is all we want to talk about, excellence, all that.
Yeah.
We're going to turn the conversation now to food. What are some of your best memories about food?
My mom's cooking, for sure, is up there. And
every conversation starts with mom. Every culture starts with mom.
As it should. So it's setting the tone. Moms do that. they set the tone for the house, and so that was amazing. Great cook, and just having family together. You know, in the military, you know, eating with the small villagers in Afghanistan, and you know them rolling out a rug for us, and we're all sitting on the floor, and they started bringing in this beautiful fruit, and like all of the food was just amazing and laid out on these trays, and the whole thing was just beautiful. And then we've got all of our rifles and stuff stacked in the corner, and you know, body armor's off, and we're just, you know, eating with the elders of the village, and this amazing little Afghan squat that they do. There's no chairs, so you know, you might have a pillow, but that was really cool. You know, breaking bread overseas with just the people. Yeah.
What do you think it is about eating food together that breaks down those barriers? You talked about when we were talking offline about feeling safe.
Yeah. I mean, how we treat food, how that meal is processed, is performed, has a lot to do with how safe you feel at that time. You know, there were times where we were eating just for fuel, and it was like, you know, two guys are eating, two guys are pulling security, or, you know. And then there are times where, you know, the rifles are stacked in the corner, the body armor's off, and you're just sitting around a rug with a spread.
It's probably hard to do, but did you forget where you were at once the bread? I mean, when I say this,
no. Well,
not where you're at. That's not the right term. Did you just feel better?
Humanity. Like all of a sudden, you know, it's like we're all human. We all have to eat. We're all hungry. And then, you know, how you treat the food. I mean, how it was brought out. I mean, that was something that the whole time I'm processing.
It's an extension of themselves. It's their hospitality.
The hospitality they showed us. I'm thinking, and like what I was saying to answer your, I kind of cut you off, but I never forgot where I was at, because the whole time my mind is blown, because I'm in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan, and this is like, you know, a block party, basically. I mean, it's only the males, but you know, it was. I'm a foreign soldier in this person's village, and they're just showing the greatest hospitality, and I thought that was really cool, and connected with them at a different level at that point. Once we broke bread together, you know, it was more the hug I gave that man when we left after eating together was different than the one, you know, that before the meal.
And that's the beauty of food. That's what we're trying to do with the Latin Supper Club, with everything we do at the Colorado Food Magazine, Hispanic, is we all break bread together. It just lowers an emotional or psychological barrier, and then we just serve others, and it's an extension of ourselves. I mean, like, I like to cook, and we all like the barbecue, and that's just really cool. Do you have any favorite 3 places you like to eat here in Colorado?
So, fortunately, my wife is a great cook as well. So love.
Okay, home.
Yeah, home. That's like the best meal. When I lived in Denver, we loved going to Catavella's. It's over. It was in what
I know
used
exactly
to be called
the chef.
Stapleton.
The chef, we interviewed him 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Zuri, Chef Zuri. He now is the executive chef at Shanahan's. He was the chef there, and then Alyssa.
Yes.
Her. Yeah, her. She's the owner, but she's pretty amazing. She's a renowned Denver chef. Amazing.
Oh man, loved going over there, and we would sit right at the bar they have where you're watching them prepare the food, and just fabulous experience.
Oh, is that, okay, nice.
Tupelo Honey is another one. It's not far from here.
What is it?
Tupelo Honey.
Okay.
Great restaurant, right on the backside of Union Station.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? I've just read about them. They made, I think that's owned by Frasca Hospitality Group. He's a world-renowned restaurateur.
Really?
We're going to have him one of our guests at the Hispanic Chefs Association in a couple weeks. Okay,
Fabulous.
that's amazing. That we're in the same places and stuff like that. So home,
Yeah.
what was the
Calavella.
Calaveras, and what was the third one?
Tupelo honey.
Okay, there you go, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So we talked about your journey, what good leadership is, what good followership. I love that comment about the followership. You can't follow, you can't lead.
Right.
Because you got to submit your ego.
You do. Submit. That is a great word to use there. And that's very hard for people to do.
Well, it is. It is. It is. And I'm sure, with your background and stuff like that, everybody, when they're the ultimate team player, then the synergy is 10 times more than individual input.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about breaking food. I can't talk.
The fruit. I brought that up. Yeah.
Fruit,
yeah.
food,
Yeah.
everything else. We also talked about the healing power of food, and you and I and Zach sat down for lunch one time. We talked about a house and chefs and how it all ties together with our Hispanic Chefs Associations. You want to have a house where you can heal warriors.
Yeah.
Talk about that. What the vision is behind that.
Yeah. So I would have to go back to, my personal experience with that. There was a time there where I wasn't dealing with, things that we did in combat as well. And so I went through a program called Operation Restored Warrior in 2009. And that was really a life-changing event for me. And it was a 5-day program. They call it a drop zone. And you have 5 or 6 other guys. They're all combat vets. And, it was amazing how much was processed at the dinner table each night. And, each meal, really, because they had a chef there, and the food was just gourmet. Every single meal was amazing. And the element that brought to that entire process during that week was amazing. It really left an impact with everyone who ever went through. You'd ask them, what do you remember most? I guarantee you they would say the food. So that is something that I want to bring forward in, quest outfitting and on these hunting trips or backpacking trips. There's going to be a lot of emphasis put on the meals, and that's where everything kind of comes out, is around the dinner table, and that conversation is really what can lead to the biggest impacts. So, we want to bring that into.
And we can help you find the chefs. We can.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
And that they would love to help veterans and love to. I mean, obviously we're both veterans, and Jack, and let us know how we can help bring that vision to fruition.
We will, and that vision is still just Developing, yeah.
Right, and what do you want to do with Quest Outfitters? But you want to do the trips? Kind of talk about that.
So, I think a lot of folks, veterans and non-veterans, and there's a point in your life where you can resign. You can sort of just accept, the status quo or the way things are, and you've got your very safe vision planned out, and it becomes monotonous, and it leads to resignation. So we want to awaken that spirit again.
Within,
that warrior within. Fan the flames in there a bit and get those embers back to a flame even. So
I love that. I mean I do that regularly.
Yeah.
I like the pictures.
Your trip recently. Yeah.
The deep backcountry kind of dangerous, and it brings an aliveness,
Yeah.
a purpose, the living on the edge thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you reminded me of another book, Wild at Heart. It talks about,
I love that book.
I think it's adventure.
Rod Eldridge. Or something.
Yeah, John Eldridge. Yeah. You've got to have an adventure, and there's got to be a certain element of danger there, or you don't awaken that within you.
And that's what you want to do.
Yeah,
with Quest?
we want to provide that in the safest way possible for someone, and that's to have a former special operations medic and then a Marine, and you're safe. We can go into the backwoods together, and be able to sort it out.
Yeah. Do you have? It's going to be called Quest Outfitters.
Yes.
And then how would they if they want to find out more about your trips?
So right now, that's still developing. I would say.
And we'll
can put
check
it on, back
okay,
on that.
Okay. They can always get a hold of us, and I'll get a hold of you.
Because there's not a good enough way that I want to put out there to a lot of folks right now. We're kind of what we're starting with is people that we know, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. No, we'll help. I mean, we'll be in contact regularly.
We'll be talking about it for sure. It's growing. It's growing.
So food helps break down barriers, psychological.
It does.
You feel safe, awaken everybody within. That's great. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on today. I really do, telling your story. Appreciate your service. I mean, I salute you as especially achieving. I understand the level of expertise, craftsmanship, skill, and dedication it requires to get where you were. I fully understand that. And I want you to know that we and our audience appreciates that.
Yeah.
And so,
thank you very much for having me.
And so, what would you have for us? I mean, what would you kind of listened to a lot of the podcasts, and
Yeah, I have.
What could we do differently to reach a different audience?
Differently, I don't know that I have that kind of advice for you. I do want to encourage you to continue. I think what you're doing, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, and you're pouring just pure gold back into this industry. And these are things that people can take with them anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing. These are pearls of wisdom that you can keep with you forever. So I love what you guys are doing, and just keep doing it. Love all the success that you're having and the growth.
We want to achieve world class, like Celine, Brendan, Allen. These guys are magnificent. I mean, it's about the team.
It is.
And without them, I'm just a guy flapping my lips.
That's right. That's right.
Talking to a phone.
Yep. And it wouldn't even sound as good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And we want to develop into a world-class organization. And that's why I have you.
Yeah.
Because you've achieved world-class excellence in certain parts of your life. And you continue to do that. I mean, you're obviously a world-class guy. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, John.
Again,
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.